This episode of the Beauty by ABIC podcast is brought to you by Meder Beauty Science. Hello and welcome to the Beauty by ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Here, we are strengthening and unifying the industry through representation, innovation, and education. This is a platform created and dedicated to the aesthetic and beauty industry, valuing unity and advancement. We serve to represent, support, and inspire you by connecting you with industry experts, expanding your knowledge through educational pieces, and bringing you the latest industry news. This is Beauty by ABIC. I'm your host, Stephanie Miller, and today's guest is Tiina Meder from Meder Beauty. Dr. Tiina Meder dreamed of a career in medicine from an early age. Initially fascinated by the harmony and rationality of chemistry, she found her calling in the idea of using science to help people. Dr. Meder started out as a cardiologist, later turning to dermatology. Strictly academic in her approach from the start, Dr. Tiina Meder quickly earned recognition in the field. In 2009, Meder Beauty Science was born out of her frustration with the conventional skincare industry, and today Dr. Tiina Meder dedicates most of her time to managing Meder Beauty, which has grown into an international enterprise with distribution partners in over 30 countries. Meder Beauty treatments are offered in more than 10,000 clinics across the world. Today, the company offers 6 innovative professional treatments for clinical use and 27 home care products. Dr. Meder uses her experience, knowledge, and energy to devise products and treatments that are safe, painless, and effective for all ages and skin types. She pioneered the use of peptides for forehead wrinkles and have combined prebiotics and probiotics in one treatment. She was one of the first to use epigenetic and neurocosmetic ingredients to improve skin health. Here to discuss Skin Microbiome from Meder Beauty, today we welcome Dr. Tiina Meder.
Tiina, it is such a pleasure having you on our podcast today. How are you?
Oh, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. And I feel great and very excited to share some of background story of the brand and my background story with listeners.
Oh, that's wonderful. We're so excited to have you. First and foremost, because you are a preeminent expert in your field, but you also have one of the most interesting backstories to your career and entrances into our beauty and aesthetic industry. And I'd love you to tell our listeners all about your history and how you came to be in this space.
Oh, thank you for the question. That's so often I don't view myself as an expert because education is a journey. And in our industry, it's so many new things are happening all the time. Then it's so difficult to feel as an expert because everything is new around you. And about my background story, it's truly unusual and started when I was very young. Even before I finished the school, because when I was in the school, I was two things in the same time. I was a passionate swimmer. I was swimming for the USSR youngsters team, and I really dreamed to be Olympic champion. But in the same time, I dreamed to be a chemist because my mom was a chemist. And but my mom told me, over my dead body, you will become chemist. That's not a work. And that's true. And in this time, it was dangerous professionally because the safety was on the very low level, especially in the USSR. And there have been a lot of cancers amongst chemists in our small town because it was industrial chemistry. And the town was so small, 5,000 people. But it was 500-bed hospital only for cancer. So literally everyone got it. And in my young age, I didn't think about it. But my mother was very careful and she was so against me become a chemist. And after one of competition, I got a trauma and should leave the swimming and abandon the dream to be Olympic champion. And it was such a disappointment. So when I was 12, I just rebuilt my life from the dream to the new dream. And I decided to be a doctor because everyone around me told me, okay, now after what that happened to you, you are obliged to be a doctor. You should be grateful, so be a doctor. Obviously, my mother was so happy with this idea. Finally, not chemistry.
Finally.
Doctor, finally. And okay, I took a decision and I entered the university. I started to learn. I was passionate about it. I loved it. I forgot everything about the chemistry. And a few years after I finished the university, I was a cardiologist. And I was in the group researching the health state of women with congenital disorders of heart valves after their pregnancy and after they gave birth to children. And my role was to visit them at home, discuss with them how they live, what they feel, to do some tests. And I discovered, I was so amazed, they've been not so worried about their health. They've been worried about their look. They asked me a million questions.
Wow.
About the wrinkles, about the puffiness, pigmentation, cellulite. I tried to ask them about their health, but they've been so short. Yeah, I am okay, I'm fine. Let's speak about my wrinkles. And that was some kind of game-changing moment for me, because before I was really, for me, the beauty and the look and even the skin, that wasn't a big deal. I was good in dermatology, but I wasn't passionate about it. I always thought that life, it's some big question like life and death.
Right.
And the beauty or useful look, that wasn't a big question for me when I was, at least when I was 25 years old. But that's changed my mind enormously, because there have been so many women living a hard life in the post-USSR world with really congenital heart disorders, with little help from the family, with little baby, but they were still worried about how they look. And I started, because they asked me so many questions about wrinkles and everything, I started to remember what I did in the school time, because with my passion to the chemistry, I experimented with everything, including lipsticks.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it was so fun. So I restarted. I bought a little bit of kaolin and essential mint oil and something else. And I started to prepare some concoction for my patients, because they asked me. And I was quite good in that. And when I got my first child, I was 25, and I thought, okay, now in the maternity leave, I can go deeper in my hobby. So I started to learn more about cosmetology, got a specialization in dermatology, and then just, to spend the time in the skincare. And here I am, 26 years after, still there, never been back in cardiology. And now I really see the skincare as a part of the essential healthcare for people, not only for women, but for everyone, because that's such a part of our life. And dermatological life index, life quality index, it's correlating with the global health index and the global life quality index more than anything else. People are worrying about their skin health more than about their health in general, for some unclear reason. Yeah, so I'm still here. I still love what I'm doing. And that was a long journey, but I hope that so many new things just ahead of us.
Well, that was a story. And I tell you what, fascinating, because to hear it from somebody who is literally out there saving lives through being a cardiologist and through talking to your patients about their heart concerns, but really what their concerns were their interface with the outside world, which is their face, their skin, their outer being, I suppose. And it truly is a reflection of how you feel inside your skin, right? You radiate through this interface that we have, and it's so important to be able to nourish it and treat it the way that it deserves. And we know that inherently, but it's so beautiful hearing someone straight from the medical industry give it the weight that we know that it deserves. And then you not only went into skincare and looking at dermatology and looking about skin health, you actually then formulated your own skincare brand about skin health and what it is and how it's affected by the microbiome. And I dare say your discoveries are groundbreaking. They're definitely up there in the leading discoveries in our industry. Can you please tell us a little bit more about the microbiome, starting with what are the positive effects?
Oh, thank you. The microbiome, it's my great passion. First of all, I always loved microbiology. And all this microbiological world is absolutely fascinating. Thinking then all of us, everything on the planet Earth, is sourced from bacteria. Because by the evolution, bacteria have been first. They created the atmosphere, they created oxygen, and they made it possible. The evolution, and in billions of years, coming from the human being, with animals and plants and mushrooms and everything what we have on the planet. And for me, before I started to work on the microbiome, I was really amazed by the idea of how I formulated interconnectedness, because you cannot see the human body in the medicine as a collection of cells or even the collection of organs or tissues, because everything is so connected. If something happens with your liver cells, every cell in your body will feel it, will react to it, will be affected. Same for the skin, same for the brain. We cannot leave anything. So, and our body is living in the very complicated state of homeostasis, which is auto-supporting itself. And when Human Microbiome Project started, it was the amazing discovery that we are not alone. We are living with these billions and billions of bacteria and viruses and fungi and archaea on our skin, in our gut, and even in our blood and everywhere. So the human body, it's not the body itself, it is an ecosystem. And it's like actually, that's really reflecting with everything on the planet, because humanity, that's a part of the microbiome of the planet Earth, with animals and everything living on the planet, including bacteria. But bacteria and viruses and everything, they are microbiome of the human body. So we are planets for our microbiome. And that's impossible to see us separately. That's impossible to separate the skin from the microbiome. And what is fascinating, the first scientific papers and publication on this subject been published in 19th century. But obviously it was too far ahead of the time. So that wasn't understood by the scientific community. And the microbiome project started in 2007, 2008. And since that, we discovered a lot about the microbiome. And now I believe that we cannot see the skin anymore as a collectivity of skin cells. We cannot address skin cells only. We should address the microbiome in the first place, because our body is outsourcing to the microbiome so many functions.
Yes.
In immunity, that's a microbiome function. Skin cells cannot be taught how to react to the external world without the microbiome. Everything is linked to the microbiome, especially in the stratum corneum and the epidermis. So when we are addressing the stratum corneum and the epidermis, we should always keep the microbiome in mind and understand how every ingredient, every formulation, every product interacts with the microbiome. And that's really, really different in every part of our body and even in every part of our face, because the microbiome on the forehead and microbiome around ears is different.
Exactly.
So that's really, and healthy microbiomes, that's a key for the healthy skin. It's impossible to get healthy skin when the microbiome is imbalanced, because so many function outsourced to the microbiome. So without it, or with unbalanced microbiome, the skin cannot protect itself functionally. The skin cannot produce enough of water-holding molecules. The skin cannot protect lipids from the oxidation. The skin even cannot protect itself from the ultraviolet properly. So the microbiome is everything for our skin, from the natural sunscreen until the natural moisturizer.
My goodness, we could talk about this forever. And I think we're going to have an extremely in-depth discussion about all the different facets of the microbiome. But you actually touched on this topic that we really need to delve into. And, we're talking about the importance of the microbiome, but what are some of the causes of an imbalance in the microbiome? Because we know that it's so important, but we know that if it's off kilter or it's not, doing its job efficiently, what is it? Why does it go out of balance?
The microbiome can go out of balance for many reasons. Fortunately, that's stable. And since the very beginning, since the very first day of our life, our microbiome is forming as a resident microflora, which can be restored if it's not affected, if it's not harmed by the external world. And our microbiome, it's like a fingerprint. It's a hereditary from our family. We're sharing a lot of our microbiome traits with our mothers and our fathers and siblings, and even with our animals living at home, especially with dogs.
Of course.
Cats, for some reason, they're sharing less, but dogs, they are really part of the microbiome family for everyone. But the external world can affect microbiome, first of all, because of some disinfecting ability. For example, the ultraviolet is well known for this disinfecting ability. Ultraviolet is used in the medicine, right, to disinfect the space. And that's disinfecting the skin as well, just affecting the part of the bacteria and viruses sensitive to the ultraviolet. So when they've been killed, another microbial part of the microbiome, they're starting to grow and develop and take their places. And so we get this imbalance. For example, we are losing a few of very useful actinobacteria, which are able to hydrolyze the skin sebum, make it more liquid, so moisturize the skin better. When they've been killed by the ultraviolet, our skin becomes drier because it's very difficult to restore lipid barrier without microbiome working on it. Also, that can be another factors, including the diet, because it's a scientifically proven axis between gut and the skin, and everything which is produced by the gut microbiomes, there are many of active substances and molecules absorbed from the gut, going directly to the blood and affecting the skin as well. And obviously skincare, that's a big part of the problem, and that can be the big part of the solution as well. It depends how we use it. Because everything what we apply it on the skin is interacting with the microbiome. So if you apply on the skin some solution with a disinfecting ability, eliminating any part of the microbiome will be imbalanced. Sometimes we need it. And the benzoyl peroxide, in the last 50 years, that's an official part of dermatological guidelines for the acne treatment, because in acne, we see overgrowth of pathological strains of Cutibacterium acnes, maiden name Propionibacterium acnes, if someone is not used for this change. But if you apply products containing benzoyl peroxide on the healthy skin, when the Cutibacterium magnes is not overgrown, you will imbalance the microbiome. So we should be very reasonable and very thoughtful when we are choosing the skincare solution for every individual patients, clients, or for ourselves.
Sure, because there's, short-term effects, of course, of an imbalanced microbiome. There are also long-term effects.
The long-term effect, that's first of all loss of barrier function of the skin. Because when the microbiome is affected, the skin becomes sensitive, and not only sensitive to some contact substances, but sensitive to literally everything. Ultraviolet, wind, temperature, the water, everything. And sensitized skin is less protected, easily irritated. It started to feel uncomfortable. That's the way to the constant redness, chronic erythema, rosacea, and so on, and many of dermatoses. Now, 100% of dermatoses are proven to be linked to some specific imbalance in the microbiome. So very probably, if we learn how to protect our microbiome efficiently, we will get rid of many of dermatoses, including atopic dermatitis and eczema.
Wow, that's so profound. And, there are studies now linking the, effects of, for example, development of allergies and sensitivities and food intolerances and all these sorts of intolerances to substances around us with a disruption in the microbiome, either your gut or your skin. And we are seeing, we're seeing in clinical practice, just an increase in inflammation, an increase in, as you were saying, sensitivities, allergies, whether they're true allergies or they're, I suppose, intolerances. And would you say that that's also stemming from imbalanced microbiome on your skin and in your gut?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many discussion about it now. And apparently we are living in much more in the cleaner world. And all this, we are trying to sterilize our environment as much as we are trying to create for our babies this quasi-sterile environment, which is not good for them.
No.
Because they cannot,
I love that you said that.
Yeah, they cannot build their own microbiome because a baby needs to touch the dirt. They don't need to be cleaned constantly. They need to get the contact with the real world. Paradoxically, but the really lower level of the atopic dermatitis is in farmer children.
Yes.
Because they are in the contact with the reality. In our urban life, we are trying to eliminate everything which linked us with nature, and we shouldn't do it. And all this, I can say, pandemic of the sensitive skin, atopic conditions, and allergic reactions of the skin and gut, and the pandemic of intolerances is very probably is linked to our attempt to clean out around us.
Of excessive cleanliness. Yeah. The old adage, have your kids go out and eat some dirt.
Yeah, I know how it sounds, but what is better, to eat the apple from the tree or to eat the industrial food, which is not microbiologically contaminated in the nice polyethylene packaging, very clean sandwich? What is better for us? What is better for our microbiome? Very probably the apple from the tree.
Directly from the plant. I know I go out into my garden and pick my tomatoes and pop them in my mouth without even washing them sometimes, just give them a quick rinse in the water, and that's it. Look, I have to say I'm loving everything you're speaking about, and I'm sure everyone that's listening is deeply fascinated. You're talking about imbalances, you're talking about, long-term effects and damage, but there has to be a way of repairing the microbiome. There has to be something we can do to intervene. Tell us, because you have been studying this for so long. Give us your wise words of wisdom in this regard.
Oh my God, I feel old giving wisdom. First of all, we shouldn't protected too much. So we shouldn't create this extremely clean environment for us or for our skin. Obviously, in the medical environment, when you're doing injectables or laser resurfacement in the aesthetic treatment or something, we should use gloves. The room should be clean, and the skin should be cleaned up with some disinfectant, aseptical skincare. But in the real life, 24/7, we should not do it. Our skin needs some substances to grow saprophytic beneficial bacteria. And sometimes we need some substances to suppress the grow pathogenic bacteria. But there are two kinds of microbiome, so-called microbiome-friendly product. First, that's a microbiome-friendly family, which should not affect microbiome at all. The whole idea of the microbiome friendliness, that's a maintenance of the microbiome. So, shortly speaking, in the microbiome-friendly product, you should not use any ingredients disinfecting the skin, ingredients with antibacterial action. But another part of the microbiome-oriented skincare, the microbiome-oriented product or microbiome treatment. When you see some skin condition linked to the unbalanced microbiome, for example, acne, we know well, it's scientifically proven, the role of Cutibacterium acnes in the acne development. When the development of acne is linked to the overgrowth of pathogenic strains of Cutibacterium acnes, so we can do anything we can to suppress the growth of Cutibacterium acnes and to promote the growth lactobacillus on the skin, because it helps to restore the microbiome. And here, that sometimes we can use some antibacterial ingredients. I am not doing it because I prefer a little bit more microbiome-friendly way, but it's still possible. Benzoyl peroxide can be the part of the microbiome-oriented treatment, as well as salicylic acid.
Meder Beauty Science was one of the first microbiome-friendly professional skincare brands. Launched in 2009, Meder Beauty Science has since earned worldwide recognition. Bearing the name of its founder, Dr Tiina Meder, Meder Beauty Science embodies a bold and scientific vision with a firm belief in natural, pain-free beauty. All Meder Beauty solutions are based on scientific data and extensive studies of cosmetic ingredients, their benefits, effect, combination possibilities, and ability to penetrate into the skin. Working with cosmetic chemists and partnering with dermatologists and microbiologists to formulate their products, Meder Beauty Science researches the safety of each ingredient combination and has created a system of skincare which enhances and supports the effect of each individual product. To find out more, go to mederbeautyscience.com.au today.
But also you can use specific prebiotics, which is promoting the growth of lactobacteria, and specific probiotics, which suppressing the growth of Cutibacterium acnes and promoting the growth of other bacteria which needed on the skin. So we don't speak about two family of ingredients anymore. We are speaking about four microbiome-oriented family of ingredients. They are prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics, and metabiotics.
That's a whole bunch of biotics.
Yeah, a whole bunch of biotics, but actually it's not so complicated because hyaluronic acid, long-chained hyaluronic acid, native hyaluronic acid, that's a prebiotic because it's really promotes the growth of beneficial bacteria. That's not enough for the acne treatment, but that's enough to maintain the skin health. Even if it doesn't penetrate deeply into the skin, we don't use the native hyaluronic acid to penetrate into the dermis. We are using it to hold the water on the surface of the skin, to create the space of the free water, and to promote the health of the microbiome, to maintain the health of the microbiome.
I love how you said that, the space of the free water. That sounds...
Yeah, because free water, that's very important for the microbiome health.
Yes.
you can bind a lot of water in the skin, for example, with a small chain hyaluronic acid or with injectables. And the skin can be well hydrated, but it will be not enough for the microbiome, because microbiome needs this ocean of water, lake and ponds in the stratum corneum.
So, Tiina, we're delving into ingredients and we've started going into that world now, which is so exciting. And I know everybody listening is, is riveted right now because we want to know more about ingredients and how they affect the skin. But in particular, which skincare ingredients can actually have an adverse effect on the microbiome?
Everything with all kinds of ingredients, all kinds of the skincare product with a pH changing ability affecting the microbiome, because the microbiome is pH sensitive. Sometimes it's affecting the microbiome for good. For example, with an age, our skin is becoming a little less acidic. So when we turn the pH to the slightly more acidic side, our skin benefits from it. But the young skin is acidic as is. So if you add a little bit of the acids on the young healthy skin, that's very easy to make it more sensitive and unbalance the microbiome. So all kinds of alpha hydroxy acids. And first of all, probably glycolic acid, because that's the most powerful of the alpha hydroxy acid. They are affecting microbiome and under some condition can unbalance the microbiome. Also, retinol and derivatives, mostly 3 active forms of retinol. So retinol itself, retinoic acid, and retinol or retinaldehyde. They are acting very intensely on the skin. And sometimes the skin feels it like an aggression. Retinoic dermatitis and another side effects of the retinol use are linked to the speed up of the skin renewal. And this skin renewal, it renews the microbiome as well. And very often, microbiome just has no time to restore itself because it's their environment, it's their housing, which is destroyed with its speedy renewal. So we should be very careful about it, and using such of ingredients, that's always a good idea to use prebiotic beside it. Or for some category of the patients, it's not a good idea to use active form of retinol or alpha hydroxy acids at all. For example, for patients with sensitive skin, for patients with rosacea, for patients with damaged skin by some events previously. But I think everyone knows about it. So it's no bad and good ingredients. Just every ingredient should be used purposefully and thoughtfully. So if you're using, for example, retinol, why not? But you should use alongside product containing some oligosaccharide, promoting the growth of beneficial microflora on the skin. That can be alpha oligosaccharide known as bioE. coli, that can be inulin, which can be the part of some plants extract, for example, water chestnut extract. It can be hyaluronic acid in the native form, or even glycerin. So it can help. And it can prevent side effects and make any kind of treatment much more comfortable. Or you can avoid use such of ingredients potentially affecting the microbiome and replace it with alternatives. Yes, that's a choice of formulators, it's a choice of practitioners or medical doctors choosing right products for their patients.
And there are alternatives. And I think Meder doesn't use, you practice what you preach. You don't use retinol, AHAs, or glycolics in your products. You use alternatives that give that same effect, I suppose, that same stimulation, rejuvenation of the skin. Tell us a couple of little ingredients that you would use in place of.
This pleasure. Actually, when I ran my clinic in south of France, and as an aesthetic practitioner, I was mostly the peeler, then injector. I loved chemical peels. I started to use chemical peels in the end of 90s, and I was quite good in that. So until the very last day of my clinic closure, which happened in 2014, because brand growth grow it up unexpectedly, and I just couldn't run everything in the same place. As you know, clinic, that's a 24/7 activity. You cannot do it as a hobby 2 days a week. You should be present. So I did the peeling until the very last day in the clinic. But for me, chemical peels, including chemical peels with retinol, they are professional instruments and not the daily home care. Because very probably after more than 20 years of daily practice, and especially after many years of professional training in more than 40 countries over the world, I'm a little bit disappointed in humanity. So I don't believe we can control the daily use of such of active product
Right.
in the hands of consumers. Because retinol and acid, they are so impressive in the effect. When people try it, they continue despite any kind of side effects, and they become addicted to these results. And it's not so good for the skin, because now we have a deal with 90% of women coming to the clinic with a sensitive skin already. So when I created the brand, I made a choice to avoid retinol and hydroxy acids. That in the first place, that sounded like a challenge, because that's difficult.
Of course.
There are active ingredients. So all this hunt for alternatives, it's not so easy. That's quite complicated. But first of all, I found the niacinamide. As banal as it sounds, niacinamide, that's an amazing ingredient with the whole spectrum of effect, really similar to the retinol. The mechanism of action is different because it's acting via nitric acid capillary, and the nitric acid linked stimulation of ceramide synthesis or collagen synthesis, but it's efficient. And that's skin identical. That's much less of the side effect, if any, of side effects.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and after I came to another ingredient such as retinol alternative, for example, for the oily skin, we are using avocutin, or the chemical name that's butyl avocadate. That's a substance extracted from the avocado oil, and that's really is able to bind retinol receptors and activate suppress the activity of the 5-alpha reductase in the skin. So exactly what retinol does. And that suppress the sebum production in the same 14 days for the same 30% as 0.1% of retinol solution.
Well, without disruption to the microbiome?
Without any disruption to the microbiome and without any side effects, because that's not really speed up the skin renewal as retinol does. It's acting more selectively. So the big difference between alternative and the main substance like retinol, that's more selectivity in the action. Mechanism of action can be really similar, but that's acting not so globally, because retinol, that's one of the vital substances for our body. We have retinol receptors everywhere, brain including. And with substances with the same mechanism of action, we are in safer place.
What you said is very profound. There's no good or bad ingredients. There's just how you use them, when you use them, how often you use them. And, often we as professionals in the industry will prescribe something to our patients, and then our patients will either overuse, underuse. It's a matter of giving away that professional control that you have over that person's skin and that responsibility, and placing it in an untrained hand, I suppose, is what spurred you on to try to find an alternative that was more easy for the therapist, the actual end user to utilize.
And also that's a question of inclusivity, because, for example, you cannot prescribe retinol-based skincare to pregnant women or breastfeeding women. And I think that pregnant and breastfeeding women, they are shamefully ignored by our industry until these days. Because when I started to think about the skincare, my first step in this journey was about mothers having babies and worried about their skin and how they look. And I always keep it in mind. And when first I've seen probiotics and peptides and got the idea to create some solution which can be used, for example, for the wrinkle treatment in the pregnancy time, I came to brands which I collaborated. At this time, I was a head of international training department for one Swiss brand. I worked for big French brand as a medical consultant, and I came with my genius idea. Telling, okay, let's do it. And they told me, no, Tina, pregnancy, that's a niche. And to be honest, in our industry, so many brand founders, especially in the doctors created brand, they are male dermatologists. And I was so tired to hear from male dermatologists pregnancy that's only 9 months. That's not only. Everyone who had a child knows when they are long 9 months. Maybe for men, they are only 9 months. For me, it's been 9 months twice. And I remember every day of it until this day.
Yes, and the rest when the baby comes and the breastfeeding, if you're choosing to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have a baby, that didn't end on the day when you've had a baby.
It just begins, of course.
It just begins. And also for mothers, you spend a lot of time outdoors with your children. And a lot of skincare products are not sun safe, especially for Australia. Because the ultraviolet is so intense, it's just irresponsible to use some photosensitizing product in the Australian summer, thinking that we can protect the skin efficiently via sunscreen. Even 50 plus sunscreen leave about 1% of the ultraviolet affect the skin. And when the skin is sensitized, it's largely enough to get skin damaged.
Absolutely.
So I prefer to use products which first of all, are not photosensitizing for the skin, so they can be used in any season and by people with any type of the skin, including darker types, because they are more vulnerable for acids and retinol, which is damaging their skin more than fair types of the skin, which can be used by pregnant women, breastfeeding women, women and men who spend a lot of time outdoors without thinking about this thick layer of the sunscreen, which you should renew every 80 minutes or 120 minutes, like it's prescribed on the label.
Goodness me. Oh, groundbreaking stuff. You know, you always talk about, and I hear you talk about our patients, the end user, our clients, people. I noticed that you do very differently at Meda is you display numbers on each of your products. Can you give us the reasoning and the philosophy around that? I think it might be genius, actually.
Actually, that's a funny story because, first of all, I am a professional skincare formulator. That's my specialization. I started as a cosmetic safety expert after I came to the research and development area, and I specialized in the professional skincare products and professional skincare protocols. So in my mind, they never want product to be applied on the skin. I see the skincare as a system. As the skin, it is an ecosystem, the skincare should be systematic. And so in professional skincare, we're using this protocol, right? Step 1, cleansing. Step 2, the exfoliation. Step 3, we are using antioxidant serum to suppress the free radicals activity in the skin. More concentrated product we are using after. So our very first product launched in 2009, that was a professional set containing 6 products for professional treatment. That was my very first idea. And obviously, every product was numbered because I trained skin therapists and aesthetic professionals in more than 40 countries in the world at this time. And I understood how different we are. First of all, that's it's a lot of similarity about skincare professional in Japan and Norway. We are worrying about our patients, about our clients. We are passionate about the skin health and so on. But in the same time, we see the information and we absorb the information very differently. That's extremely difficult for people who are not so familiar with English or Latin-based words to take the information from the packaging of the professional products, because you have local light in your room, and you don't have an ability, especially if you are a little bit older than 40, 45, that's difficult to read in this dimmy place, letters and words from the small packaging of professional products. So I put numbers to make life easier. You just have a look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's impossible to make mistakes. It's foolproof. You can use your brain to think about the skin health and not to memorize all these protocols of professional treatments. But very soon we've been asked to launch home care version of the products. First of all, it was for the exfoliation, because a lot of skin therapists came to me, oh my God, we love it. That was the very first probiotic-based exfoliation mask. And probably that was the first in the professional treatment, probiotic-based exfoliation.
I think it was. It's pretty groundbreaking, yeah.
I got in 2009 when I started to speak about bacterial enzymes. People ask me, pro what? Pre what? What about your speaking? And practitioners started to come to me and ask if you can launch the home care version of this exfoliation mask, because I love it. My patients love it. And we think, okay, let's do it. And in the first 3 years, I believe, we sold unexpectedly hundreds of thousands professional sets, because we discovered that, oh no, to be honest, I thought I do it only because I am so stubborn. I cannot take no as an answer. We just sold our apartment, invested everything in R&D. That's how crazy my husband is to support me in everything.
Oh, how wonderful.
Can you imagine? I came home after all this negative discussion with big brands, when they told, no, Tina, pregnancy, that's a niche, peptides, protein, probiotics, they're too difficult to be introduced in the cosmetic world. That's utopic. That will never be the part of the cosmetic landscape. And I came home and I told my husband, can you imagine? They don't see the future. And he told me, do it yourself. You are an expert and you can do it. And after he told, okay, let's sell our apartment. Let's take a risk. And we did it. And
goodness me, that's huge, Tina, huge.
It was extremely
what an
risky.
amazing man.
Yeah. We are married about 30 years. We met when I was 16, he was 17.
Oh, congratulations.
Can you imagine? So, and we really acted as a team. And we sold apartment in 2006, and we launched the brand in 2009, because R&D and all this to make idea the real product. It takes a lot of time,
of course,
and nerves. And when we launched the product, I thought, okay, that would be, for me, we launched our first party that had been 2,000 professional sets with 36 months of shelf life. And I thought, okay, I will use it in my clinic. I have friends and colleagues, mostly in Scandinavian country and a little bit over the world, who trust me, who are curious to try something. Okay, we took a risk. If it doesn't work, at least we tried. And suddenly it became absolutely unexpectedly popular.
Were people seeking you out and they heard about it and they came to you?
Yeah, that was we didn't have any marketing. To be honest, our first marketing specialist came to the company in 2020 after COVID started. I was the marketing, and I really believe that the product, efficient product, sell itself. It's not true in the modern world, but I was naive enough to believe it, and somehow it worked. And we discovered a whole new world of people who was curious to try something non-injectable, something based on the new ingredients. And as it worked, they started to tell their friend and family and everyone around them, oh my God, I love it, try it. And we just developed, and in 2013, we reinvested everything and launched the first small home care range. And we just put the same numbers on the same product in the home version. And I thought, finally, no one will ask me what to put on the skin first, serum or the concentrate. Because it's number 3 and concentrate is number 4. People still ask me this question for some reason. But the whole idea to show by numbers how to apply this product in professional logic, not just because I love first water-soluble product. And after, I love my rich cream because skincare, that's a logical system created mindfully with an idea in mind. And to get the whole synergetic response from the skin, obviously it should be applied properly. So we put the numbers in a hope. It helps. We try to explain it to people. It's not 100% successful, but we are trying hardly.
Not 100% successful, even with the numbers.
No, believe me.
Tiina.
Once I called, when we launched the eye care, one of the product that was very light and based on the caffeine and niacinamide and estin, so anti-puffiness, anti-dark circles. And another product was richer and more protective, anti-wrinkles and helping to moisturize the skin around the eyes. So my whole idea was to apply the anti-puffiness product at night to wake up fresh. With no under eyes bag. So I call this product Bleh for a night, and another product I called Bleh for a day.
Yes.
Believe me, in a couple of weeks, I got the first question. What is the best time to apply Bleh for a night? At night or at the morning? I was like, really? I put the name on it. And we changed the name. Now it's called Bleh for a light and Bleh for a rich by texture. Because I was so desperate when people asked me about the best time to apply it, I was like, oh my God, let's rename it.
Let's rename it. Oh my goodness. That is a good story, I have to admit. I love the fact that you've numbered it. I do think despite the odd question here and there, about what order to put it in. I think the general consensus is it's very easy. It's very easy to use routine, extremely easy to use routine. The results are amazing. We've heard so much great feedback about Meda. I think the philosophy that you've talked to us about today, I think more than anything, we can hear your passion and the expertise and the knowledge and the conviction in what you do. And, just hearing that and knowing that you really care so much about the true health of the skin and what is happening in a causal way, and addressing the root causes of what is actually going wrong in someone's skin. And I think that's where all of our industry is heading, not just band-aiding symptoms, but really addressing the common causative factors of all these skin concerns that we have, and a disruption in the microbiome, inflammation that's caused by it, chronic uncontrolled inflammation, all those things that we need to really focus our attention on as professionals in the industry and guide our industry in that area. Thank you for being so avant-garde.
When industry is switching to this way, and I feel that feel good to be able to predict this movement of the industry, because 15 years ago, I just have a look around me, and this was a little bit disappointing because it was a time of stagnation. And now the whole idea of the skincare industry, that's not to cover or to hide symptoms anymore, or even not to control symptoms temporarily. Our whole idea that's a healing action on the skin and respect to the skin, and that's all scientifically based. So we're really able to use scientific breakthrough for help people to stay healthier and happier.
Beautiful. And what a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much for being a thought leader, somebody who pushes the envelope, and someone who our whole industry can use as a resource. I also want to thank Meda for supporting ABIC, for being ABIC members, and such really proponents of increasing benchmark standards in our industry and propelling our industry forward. We have to thank you so much from the bottom of our heart, because without partners such as yourself, ABIC wouldn't exist. And we, as we know, our industry really needs that type of guidance, that type of foundation, the type of respect and acknowledgement that we actually really deserve. So thank you so much again for supporting us and all of our industry.
Thank you very much. I truly believe that you are one of the pillars of the industry. So all brands should support. It should be the part of the brand DNA to support organizations, just structuring the industry life, because without you, that would be too difficult to change the industry for good. And you are key to this movement. And hope to see you when I will be in Australia.
Oh my goodness, we will absolutely see you, and hopefully all of our members will get to hear you speak as well at one of our conferences or where we appear next as well. But thank you again, Tiina. It must be, you're just starting your day now where you are. Where are you?
In London.
In
I
London.
just back from Barcelona after In Cosmetic Global Conference. Now this week I am in London, and next week I am going to Miami because we are opening the showroom in Miami, but counting days to come to Australia in July.
Well, we are very excited to have you, and thank you again for being a guest on our podcast.
Thank you. That was a pleasure.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Beauty by ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay connected.